and hit record. And Dean, we start every meeting with a 1-minute meditation led by Elizabeth Marks, who's a fellow runner for you. So Elizabeth, I'm going to turn it over to you, get us started, and then Dean will get to you in a second.
Sounds great.
Wonderful. Good morning, all. It was a lovely running discussion this morning. Welcome, Dean, and welcome everybody, all you 6 a.m.ers. So you know the drill. Let's take a nice, comfortable seat wherever it is that you are. If you're sitting someplace where your feet can be flat on the ground, send that energy right up towards your core. Let your belly button reach towards your spine. Engage your core. Sending your energy up. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears, roll back slightly. Your head balanced on your neck. And gently let your eyes close. I invite you to bring your awareness outside the room you're sitting in. And send your awareness out. What sounds can you hear outside your room? Can you hear cars? Can you hear what kind of noises out there? And then bring your awareness into the room that you're sitting in. What are the sounds that are happening right around you? The clock ticking. Is there a dog's tail wagging? Somebody else in your house that's awake, that's walking. And bringing that awareness now into yourself, right inside. You get a sense of the noises inside. You hear yourself breathe. Can you hear your heartbeat? Now bringing your awareness into your breath. Breathe in through your nose. Follow where your breath goes, how your chest expands. Now as you exhale through your nose, can you get the sense how everything contracts? That gentle motion that we rarely think about during the day as we're rushing around. Sometimes when we take a moment to pause and focus on our breath, helps bring the day into just a slight bit more clarity. Inviting you, breathing just like that, bringing the awareness to your face of when you smile. Can you imagine, can you get the sense of what your forehead feels like when you smile? What your eyes feel like? What do your cheeks feel like? That awareness of a smile on your face. Your ears, do your ears smile? The back of your head. So that, can you imagine how your tongue feels when you smile? So that the next time you swallow, can you imagine swallowing your smile, sending that smile right down into your chest? Can you get the sense? What does it feel like with that smile inside? Can you feel your heart smiling, your lungs, everything inside? Can you send that smile down your arms and legs so that while you're sitting right here, right now, your whole body just emanating with your smile? Let's take a moment to sense that wonderful being, that smiling sense of joy, of light. Bring that sense right into the center of your chest. You can bring with it your intention of the month, your word. Very gently bringing your chin to your chest. Let your eyes flutter open. Take in the room and have a super wonderful day.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for that. And hopefully everyone enjoyed that. And if you guys don't mind, let's put our word of the month in the chat. And with that, I'm going to welcome on Dean. Good morning.
Good morning. Gosh, I spent an hour waking up and you just got me all relaxed about ready to take another nap.
Were you falling asleep as you're like,
I can fall asleep like that, man. I use the Peloton meditation app, and I never get through it. I'm gone like inside of 5 minutes every time.
it's a great way to fall asleep for sure. So, well, Dean, thank you so much for coming on the Six Hammers. As you can see, it's a lively group. It's a bunch of us wake up early in the morning, and if you don't mind, maybe give everyone a quick background of like. I'll get into your story a little bit, but give a background of who you are first.
Sure. So my name's Dean Otto. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm married for going on 28 years, July 24th, coming up this year. Married a gal named Beth. Is from Mississippi. We met, fell in love at first sight in a restaurant where we worked in Atlanta, Georgia. Another crazy story behind that, but I've got two wonderful kids. Will, who also lives in Atlanta now, he's a analyst for a data center REIT that's called QTS, that's owned by, I can't think of the name of it. I'll talk about it a little early. I'll get back to it. They were publicly traded. They were bought by Blackstone. They got taken private back about 8 months ago, and so he's doing fantastic. My daughter is a model recently in Miami. She just got back last night. She's going back down for a couple of weeks next week. So she's 19. She'll be 20 in April. Got two dogs, Cooper and Biscuit. Cooper is a beautiful Labradoodle, about 3 years old. Biscuit's a crazy little cockapoo. She's about 9 years old. She's great too. Yeah, so I love to run. I love everything outdoors. Hunting, fishing, mostly fishing, but do a lot of running. I'm a Pelotoner, and I try to stay, physically fit and mentally sound. Although I struggle with the latter probably more than anything, but pretty good with the physically fit part.
well, Dean, I'm gonna give everyone if you don't mind, give everyone the story, right? Like, I mean, you've told the story. How many times did you envision you've told the story from like?
Oh my God.
Ellen show to just around the kitchen table.
Yeah.
1,000 times at this point, right?
Probably. So, yeah, I can tell the story. I mean, how much, I can tell the story and take the whole time, or I can just give you a quick synopsis and then we can jump into some Q&A.
Give us like the 5-minute version maybe, and then we'll get into like some questions around I definitely have questions just from knowing as much as I do.
Okay.
I want to ask you, so.
All right. Sounds good. So September 23rd, 24th, 2016, I'd been over in London on a business trip, and I ran a half marathon over there. As a matter of fact, we were just talking about that. It was nice. It was beautiful. But I aggravated an old hamstring injury that I actually injured originally at the New York City Marathon in 2015. So I called my coach and I asked her what we should do. And she said, look, we need to take you off the road. You need to just bike for about a month. So I landed, we had tried everything. We had tried ART, we tried all kinds of different PT. We've tried acupuncture, we tried cortisone shot, nothing worked. So I landed at 5:30 on Friday afternoon. I woke up on Saturday morning about 6 o'clock. Not too long from here. Wow, you're running on the treadmill right now. That's awesome. I don't have my glasses on, but I could see that. So I woke up and it was just like it is right now. It was super dark outside. There was a new moon, and it was also very humid that morning. But I got up to do what I normally do on a Saturday morning, which was go for a run and then go to my fellowship meeting that morning at 8 o'clock. Except this time I couldn't run. So I got on my bike that I begrudgingly bought about 8 months earlier. Trained and did a triathlon and decided that wasn't really for me, even though I'd done one when I was about 17. But long story short, I got on the bike. I got almost all the way out of my neighborhood. It was one of those mornings where it was so humid you could feel the condensation on my handlebars. I got literally to the point where my house is right now. I moved to the other side of the neighborhood, which is totally ironic. And I turned around. And I was like, man, maybe this isn't such a great idea. It's still dark outside, but it's going to be light in about 10 minutes. Maybe you should just go ahead and finish your ride anyway. So then I turned back around, got out the neighborhood, took a right, on Sharon Lane, and then took a left going north towards Uptown Charlotte, which is downtown for every other city in the country, but we call it Uptown because most of the town is south of Uptown. So I head up. I'm heading north on a 4-lane divided road, and there were all of a sudden 3 cars that come flying by me on my left side, and I was like, man, what are these guys doing at 6 o'clock in the morning? You know, they're like racing on a Saturday morning. Really, is it that are they in that big of a hurry? And then I took my focus and focused ahead. And then the second I did that, I heard brakes lock up. I felt the impact. My rear tire exploded and my lights went out. And then I woke up and I was laying in the middle of Providence Road and I was paralyzed from the waist down. And I had 2 guys standing over me, you know, kind of freaked out. And I looked up at them. I was like, gosh, guys, seriously? I was like, I had on, you know, a reflective I had on a reflective vest with LED lights on it. I had a light on the back of my bike. I had, you know, reflective socks on, a helmet, all the geeky dad gear that you could put on, I had on. And I just looked at him. I'm like, how did you not see me? I mean, I'm like lit up like a Christmas tree. And the guys just looked at me and they're like, look, you know, it was super humid, a lot of condensation on our windshield. By the time we saw you, you were about, you know, maybe 20 feet in front of us. We locked up the brakes and we couldn't avoid you. And so I said, okay, well, my name's Dean, and I introduced myself. And one of the guys picked up my bike and he started to drag it off. And I was like, whoa, stop. I was like, don't move the bike. I think I'm paralyzed and you might do further damage. So huge miracle. Number one, that they stopped. Number two, that I was awake for that because I might not have had the outcome that I had. But then at that point, you know, I reverted back to my training. And for those who don't know me, I'm an alcoholic. I got sober about 12 and a half years ago. And one of the things I learned, one of the many things I learned when I got sober was that, you know, you can't have resentments because they can lead to a drink. And also that, you know, you had to basically accept life on life's terms. So I did 2 things. I said 2 prayers. Asked God to be with my family, be with the doctors, and help them put me back together again. And if they couldn't, and I wasn't going to be able to walk again, then, you know, God had a different purpose for me. And I was okay with that. And then I said a prayer of forgiveness for the kid that hit me. You know, he didn't wake up that morning. You know what I'm going to do this morning? I'm going to hit Dean Otto on his bike. That was not part of his game plan. Certainly wasn't part of my game plan. But once I said those 2 prayers, and this, some of you are going to like think this is totally corny, but it is the God's honest truth. I literally, my heart filled with love and all the fear left my body. And I literally, I had no fear. I knew everything was going to be okay. I didn't know how it was going to be okay, but I knew it was going to be okay. So they take me to a backboard, like miracle number 3 by this. Well, miracle number 3 was the folks got on the accident scene in about 3 minutes. So we had a riot in Charlotte. There was a racial incident where a police officer shot a bystander. A policeman shot a black man, and tons of rioting, tons of protesting. I was watching it on Sky News when I was over in London, and was worried about my family because the riots were happening. They're popping up all over the city. Sure. But a big blessing of that is they were out there, right? So they were still staged all around the city in case there was trouble. So the police were on the accident scene in 3 minutes. I'm not kidding. 3 minutes after that, the ambulance got there, and they you know, take me to the backboard, loaded me up, and then I was only 2 minutes from the only level 1 trauma center in the region. So they were able to triage me, get me into the hands of a doctor by the name of Matt McGirt, who I've since become great friends with. Matt is a world-class, world-renowned surgeon. He did basically a 5-hour operation in about 90 minutes that day because he is so good at what he does. A lot of different things that he got that he didn't have to do. One of which was taking multiple images of where the screws go in. Got a little show and tell here. So this is my back. And this is my T11, T12, L1, and L2 lumbar. These are the 2 rods that are in my back, and there's 8 screws. So Matt was able to go in with his fingers and feel out like where these vertebrae were. Instead of taking like 3 pictures of where every single screw was going to go, that saved about 45 minutes or an hour. He's able to go in, clean out the bone. Miracle number 5 by now, I guess we are, is the bone did not penetrate the dura, which is the sheath that goes around your spinal cord. So I didn't lose any spinal fluid. I didn't shred my spinal cord. I was basically piffed like a frog. And the problem is the blood flow had been cut off at that time for about, an hour and a half. And I only had about 3 hours from the time of impact until I was going to be paralyzed, regardless of whether they could do the surgery or not. So Matt was able to go in and get that done really fast. I woke up, I was in the recovery room, and Matt came in and talked to me about the surgery. And he said, the surgery went great, but I'm not going to know how great it went until I am able to see if there's any neurological activity. So he asked me if I could move anything in my lower extremities, and I was able to move my big toe. And you won't even be able to see this. That's about how far I can move it. Yeah. And then it was kind of like a Disney movie. Everybody started crying, and he's like, "Look," he's like, "You're going to think I'm nuts." He said, "But you got a chance to make almost a full recovery or a full recovery. It's going to be a super long road. It's going to be super hard for you. But there's neurological activity down there." So, me being the hard-headed marathoner, runner, whatever you want to call me, determined dude that just doesn't quit anything. So I basically was up all night, exercising my toe, trying to get stronger and get it to move some more. And then, the 72 hours later, I was out of ICU. And then I was in the regular hospital that morning. They got me up and they wanted me to try to take a step on my walker. And I was like, "You guys are nuts, man. I just got run over." And so they got me up. Two most excruciatingly painful steps I've ever taken. I took 2 steps to the bathroom. That was pretty amazing. The next morning I made it to the door. The next morning I made it down the hall. The next morning they kicked me out and sent me over to the rehab facility next door. And I began about a 2-week inpatient, rigorous PT treatment there. One interesting thing happened there, and really is the reason why I'm standing here telling the story to you, is I was there day 8, and I walk into, I'm hobbling in on a walker. I get into the workout facility, and generally what they do there is you work out 3 times a day, and then you go to sleep, because it's everything you can to get anything done. So I go in for the morning workout, and there's this kid sitting in a wheelchair with his mom, and there's this bar that goes, it's like a parallel bar that goes all the way around the outside of the room for people to walk. So I'm knock-kneed walking around on that thing. And I stop and I look at this kid, and they're like, "Wow, what happened to you?" And it's like, "Well, I got hit by a truck." And they're like, "Really? How long ago was that?" And I said, "It was 8 days ago." And they're like, "Whoa, wait a minute. 8 days? You're in here walking 8 days after that?" And I looked down at the kid, and this was super risky in retrospect, but I looked down at the kid and I'm like, "Look," I was like, "if my old ass can get run over by a truck at 51 years old and get up and walk, you can too." And, I didn't know how seriously this kid was, injured at the time, but I was just really trying to inspire him a little bit and give him a little bit of hope. And I didn't think much more about it. I went to bed, back to my room. I fell asleep. I woke up and I came back that afternoon, and I walk in, and the first thing I see is this kid, and this kid is on a walker, and he's taking the first steps, and he looks over and he smiles at me. And I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "Wow." I was like, that's why I got picked. I had no idea, and I still to this day don't know how, I got the outcome that I did, when so many thousands and frankly millions of people that have spinal cord injuries don't, get the opportunity that I've had. But I knew at that point that I had to share this story with other folks and try to use it to inspire them. And then, in that recovery room, I also challenged my doctor to run a half marathon with me in a year and raise a bunch of money for spinal cord patients. And he thought I was nuts, but he didn't want to ruin my hope. And he said, "Sure, if you can run a half marathon, then I'll do that." And then, much to his chagrin, I walked into his office, 4 weeks later, and he was kind of blown away. He's like, "Dang, this guy's serious about this stuff. So I better start training." And, that sort of kicked off the whole story. So that's what happened. We can get into more detail in the Q&A, but that's the basis of the story.
Incredible. Now, how did the gentleman that ran you over, how did he get back involved in the picture? Because he came, you guys reconnected, right?
Yeah. So he sought out. He tried to find me on Facebook basically, and he couldn't find me, but he found a picture of me, and he linked the picture to my coach Kelly Phil now, who's a world-class triathlete here in Charlotte and has a stable of, I don't know, 300 or 400 runners and triathletes all around the world that she trains with her twin sister, Megan. And she found Kelly. He found Kelly. He reached out to her through Facebook Messenger. Kelly called my wife, Beth, and said, "Hey, this kid that hit Dean wants to come apologize." And Beth told me that. At first I was like, man, I don't know if I'm like ready for that. Yet, and Beth's like, look, this kid didn't mean to hit you. He's 27 years old. He just got married, just bought his first house. Why don't you just let him come in and apologize to you? And I was like, okay, that's the right thing to do. You're exactly right. And thank God she did. And then I met a kid that was just amazing. What we thought was going to be about a 5-minute, I'm sorry, you're forgiven, like convo goodbye. It turned into like a 2-hour long, heartfelt conversation, tears and hugs, and they're great people. And so we got to know them, and, they became part of the story. So I ended up walking a 5K like that weekend before I walked into Matt's office. So I signed up for a 5K because I wanted to try to break 20 minutes one more time in my 50s. And I didn't quite do it, but I did break an hour. I walked the whole time, and then I knew that I was going to be on the path to recovery. So walked into Matt's office, and we got busy, and I had dinner with Will Huffman, the kid that hit me, a couple times, and we stayed in touch. But then we kind of lost touch. But then, after I got released from inpatient rehab and outpatient rehab, I was out for my first run. This was like in late January, I guess. I was at a park here in Charlotte called Boyce Park, McAlpine Park. And I went for a run. It was super windy that morning. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to cut into the trees and like get out of the wind and finish my run. Because I was only running like 1.5 miles or something. Sure. And I just, just getting started. But I cut in there, and who do I run into but Will and his wife, Janelle, walking their dogs. And they're like, whoa, what are you doing out? And I'm like, man, I'm training for my first 5K, it's my comeback race. It's in like 6 weeks. You guys should sign up and run it with me. And they're like, if you're going to run, we're going to run. So they end up coming to the race. Their parents came. My son came back from Chapel Hill. Everybody made signs. It was like amazing. And they cheered me on, and I actually beat them, which was like really kind of nuts. So then we finished up, and by this time the story's starting to get some momentum around town, and some of the local news outfits are starting to do stories on me, and that's what started kind of the media circus. So one person did a story, then another person did a story, and then the person that actually broke the story open was a lady by the name of Michelle Bowden, and Michelle is a reporter for the the NBC affiliate here in Charlotte, and so she's also a freelance writer for People.com. And so Michelle not only did like a 4 or 5 minute story on the news, but she also posted the video of the story on People.com, and like all 200 affiliates in the United States, NBC affiliates, picked up that story and ran it, and then the video ended up going viral, and it got like 2 million hits in like the first like 24 hours, and then everything blew up, and then the phone really started ringing. That's when we started talking to Ellen and Today Show and the 700 Club and the New York Post and Runner's World, and I can't remember all of them, man. There were so many of them, but it was fun. We had a really good time doing all that, and it created a lot of awareness around what we were trying to do, which at the end of the day, we weren't trying to get famous, Sky. We were just trying to raise some money and help some people that didn't have, the outcomes that I had. And that was like super rewarding.
Incredible. There's so many questions, but the one question that keeps coming to my mind is for that word forgiveness, because I can't imagine, how did you put it? How did you come to the point where you maybe whatever anger, resentment, fill in the blank emotion was there when, because oh my God, you were out for a ride, you did everything right. And this kid hit you and put you almost paralyzed from the waist down. How did you get to the point where you knew you could forgive him? Or was it like, what was that process? Because I'm sure there are people on this call that are angry at someone right now. And for whatever reason, not obviously not maybe as critical as yours, but what message around forgiveness do you have for people on this call, I guess, is a question.
Yeah, Sky, I think we all revert to our training. It's what are you doing on a daily basis is kind of who you are. Your behavior never lies. People lie about their behavior, right? So what I did was nothing special. I just reverted back to my training, and my training was like what I said earlier. It was like, okay, these bad things happen. You have to accept it. It is what it is. There's something up there that's keeping the stars and the moon and all that stuff from running together or falling down on us. So there's a power that's up there that's greater than all of us. You need to trust it. And then the forgiveness part was just really, from my recovery training. And it was all about, a resentment is going to make me drink. So I have to get rid of it immediately. And I didn't know anything about forgiveness before I got sober. I didn't absorbed, self-centered, full of fear. And, the opposite happens when I brought God into my life. I mean, I believe in a loving, trusting God. And I knew that if I gave it to him, that he could help me. And it was really my faith that drove the forgiveness. Otherwise, I mean, I wouldn't say I didn't have a forgiving bone in my body before I got sober, but it definitely changed my perspective. It gave me a new set of glasses and allowed me to see the world from another perspective other than my own, frankly.
Yeah. Incredible. Well, if you don't, I mean, I know this is probably not a lot of what you talk about usually, but like, do you mind talking a little bit about your journey of sobriety? Like, what if maybe the one question that comes to my mind always is, what was it that drove you to the point of like, hey, like I gotta stop drinking? Was there a moment? Was it a progression? And then like the second question I have is like, what's the one lesson you learned in sobriety that you would like to pass on?
Yeah, I'm not nearly brave enough to have gotten sober on my own. Number one, I haven't really seen any good examples of anybody that's been able to do it. But number two, I had an intervention. So I didn't think I had a problem, Sky. I mean, I thought everybody else had the problem. And, so I again, going back to the running, I went for a run on a Sunday morning. It was my brother-in-law had come into town to visit me. I didn't know why. I found out why that afternoon, or late that morning. But I went for a run and I came back from the run and my dog needed to go for a walk. So I took, at the time, Blue, God rest her soul, an amazing dog. I took her for about another couple of miles and then I came back. And when I came back the second time, my old house had a circle driveway out in front of it. And the circle driveway was full of cars. Mm-hmm. And the night before, I'd stayed up, I'd watched the night race at Bristol. I'd drank till I fell asleep. And I woke up about 2:00 in the morning and, got up and went to bed, sort of sleuthed my way into bed to try to not get, not draw a lot of attention to myself. And what I'd do a lot of the times when I would get drunk like that is I would wake up in the morning and I would cook breakfast for everybody. That would be like my repentance, try to get everybody to like get off my ass. So I'd done that and I was unloading the dishwasher and the thought popped into my head and it was like, what if you were drinking and like Will or Grace needed you to like come pick them up? What would you do? Well, how would you handle that? You wouldn't be able to do that. And that stuck with me. And when I got back from that run and that driveway was full of cars, it was a full-on intervention. I mean, my parents came in town. My wife's parents came in town. My sister was here. My brother, who had been sober a couple of years at that point, who's still sober, was here. And, I'd gone to see a therapist to try to understand, what was wrong with me. at the urging of my wife. And I went and saw her for like four months, and she discharged me. And I'm like, wow, cool. I'm not drunk. That's not good.
Yeah.
Well, she's like, no, this dude's like not ready yet. And I'm not going to be able to help him. So I thought I was discharged, and she was the one that showed up and moderated the intervention. And she popped her head out of the back window, and she's like, hey, or the back door. And she's like, hey, Dean, come on in. This is an intervention. You don't have to do anything, but just sit down and listen. And I was like, okay. And honestly, Sky, I'd played this song in my head so many times. I knew this train was coming at some point, and every single time I thought about this and what my reaction would be, it was like, F you, F everybody, I'm out. You guys don't understand me. You don't know why I drink, blah, blah, blah. But for some reason, man, just this morning, all I can say, it was just God's grace, was there was a crack in the door, and I walked through it, and I kept my mouth shut, and I listened to everybody. And I understood, they told me how my drinking had affected them, how it had hurt them. Because I was like, drinking is just me. It's like, I'm the one that's hungover. I'm the one that feels like crap. What I could possibly be doing to anybody else? And it was affecting everybody. And I was a nightmare. I was no fun to be around unless I was drinking. I was a blast when I was drinking. But when I wasn't drinking, I was restless, irritable, and discontent. And they were tired of living like that. And they were tired of living with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And there was basically the two options were door number one and door number two. Door number one was get out. Door number two was go to the Delaware Center here in Charlotte, go to treatment, and then go do a 12-step program. And so that's what I did. And I thought it was a bunch of crap. I thought I could go to, I didn't need to go to treatment. When I got to treatment, I thought I could go do that and not go do the 12-step program. Little did I know I had to do them both. The more I listened, the more I saw similarities in my story with other people instead of differences. Because I'd been down this road before, not an intervention, but I started drinking when I was 13 years old, and I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. And Louisville, Kentucky, if you guys know, that's where they make bourbon. That's where they raise horses. That's where they make cigarettes. So there's a lot of things to get in trouble with, and I did them all. And it was just part of the culture, When I went to parties in high school, people would get arrested in Louisville doing the crap that we did. People's parents provided sangria, they provided kegs. For high school kids.
Yeah.
That was just the deal.
Yeah.
So I grew up thinking that was normal. It's not normal.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of like grooming. I went to the University of Kentucky, a lot of drinking there. My drinking never, I didn't get in trouble every time I drank, but every time I was in trouble, I was drinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was, that should have told me something, but I still didn't think it was a problem. I just thought everybody had a problem with the way like they reacted to things. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. What lessons what's the one lesson from sobriety that you're like, man, even if someone is not an alcoholic, like everyone should know this lesson from the 12 steps or from just everyday living? Like, what is the one lesson you want to pass on?
Man, just love each other and help everybody. That's helping other alcoholics is about the most rewarding thing that I can do. And, fellow alcoholics understand each other, where other people would cringe when we tell stories. Like, we laugh because we're like, and we don't laugh because it's funny. We laugh because it's so ridiculous that our brains are wired that way, So, get out of yourself, go help somebody else. And you're going to feel full. I get no better satisfaction than helping somebody else. And it doesn't have to be another alcoholic. To be helping an old lady across the street. It really is telling the story is about the most rewarding thing that I do, frankly, is get up on stage and shout this story out to, 700, 800, 900 people, whatever, and see the looks on their faces and hear the stories that they can relate to, and have them come up to me afterwards and talk to me about, their experiences. That's the best. And that's what I want to do when I hang up my software selling hat, which, who knows, that might be a couple of years from now. It's not going to be very long from now. I'm 56 years old. I've had a great career, and I've been selling stuff for 32 years. And I wrote a book called 2% Chance, and I published it in November 23rd of last year. It's out. It's on Amazon. You can go to rdnotto.com. I guess this is where I'm supposed to show the book.
Yeah.
And I use that as my platform to go and speak and inspire other folks. And I'd like to get on the speaker circuit and just do that. And quit selling software. Although selling software has given me an amazing life better than anything I ever thought imaginable. I live in a gorgeous home with a gorgeous family, and I have plenty of stuff. Now I just want to go help people, be honest with you, Scott.
So inspiring, man. And it's I think the interesting thing too is your story is not the spinal cord story, right? It's a whole story. It's like the sobriety, and in many ways probably your journey into sobriety is what also helped you when you were paralyzed as well. That mindset of okay, get out of yourself, right? It's I could sit here and be or I could go forward and just really inspire myself, because really I think it starts with you too. I think that's what most people think. You're saying, yes, it's other people for sure, but it always has to start with you as well.
It always has to start with you. And you can drop like a hula hoop over your head, and the space between your chest and the inside of that hula hoop is about all in this world that you can control. It's literally your attitude. How are you waking up and facing the world every day? And what are your actions? What are you doing to change things? Everything else is other forces, other people, they're influencing deals. I sell, I've managed people selling, and, I'm look, control the controllables. All you can do is control what's in front of you and what's inside that hula hoop, and everything else, you got to leave the results to something greater than us. I know I'm in the results business and the outcomes business, but I don't control the outcome. I just control the effort and the attitude, and 100% into all those things that I do. So,
incredible. Well, I have so much gratitude for hearing the story, and I know you're probably very well compensated for speaking, hopefully. And I know this was
not a bad gig.
So huge thank you to Rob and Scott and all the people in North Carolina that sort of created this introduction. But I really want to just thank you for, I know you inspired some people today, and we'll definitely make sure we get your book out. And how can people help you, Dean? What can people do that would help you?
The best thing that you could do if you want to help me is to help other people. So I work to raise money for a foundation. The foundation is looked after by Atrium Health, and there's a group of folks called ASAP, and it's the Adaptive Sports and Adventure Program. And those guys, they give hope. They basically put together programs, sports programs. They've got wheelchair basketball. They've got wheelchair skiing, or adapted skiing. They do water skiing. They do tennis. They do this crazy thing called wheelchair rugby, that they're like human battle bots, and they're literally crashing into each other. These people, but they're also amazing athletes. And I ran into one of them about a month after my accident, and he was just getting a checkup, ironically, so he could go help and inspire other people in the hospital. He had suffered a spinal stroke, which basically is when blood flow is cut off to your spinal cord. And after a very short amount of time, anything below that point in your spinal cord just dies. So he's paralyzed from here down. You could throw boiling hot water on his chest and he wouldn't feel it. But he was an amazing athlete. He ran 7 or 8 New York City marathons, was a triathlete. He's a total stud. And he just had a shirt that said ASAP with a dude in one of those hand cycles. And I just asked him about his shirt. We struck up a conversation. I ended up taking him out to lunch, and we connected. And I was like, you know what? That's where I want to aim. All my fundraising activities is towards Brian. His name's Brian Muscarella. So if you go to, I can send you the link if you'll.
Yeah, send me the link, and we'll share it.
A small or large donation to that outfit, that would be great. If you buy my book, I donated part of the proceeds to the book as well to that foundation. And man, just
Awesome.
be nice to each other, man. Help each other out. That's the most important thing in the world that we can all do, right? We're not here very long. And I think, I think the Dalai Lama once said, the meaning of life is be happy and help each other. And, and to me, that's it. That's what we're here for.
So I have a challenge for everyone on the call right now. And the challenge is to think of someone that you have been upset with in the last week. Just put their first initial, just put one letter in the chat. So you really are conscious of this. And what can you do today to be nice to that person and forgive them? And that's my challenge to the 400 people on this call. Because I know everyone on this call has someone that made you mad, pissed you off, but hopefully no one was run over by someone. And Dean, the fact that you can forgive that person for that, that accident, but still, I think that's the message. And then be nice to people. It's such a powerful message, and I love everything about this conversation. So hopefully we can stay in touch, and hopefully we can help you out a little bit in your journey. And I can't wait to see you on the speaker circuit. It's going to be awesome to hear the full speech.
I'm so grateful for Rob, connecting us, Sky, and for you to ask me to come speak to your group. It's a great group of folks. You guys, your hearts and your minds are in the right places. I love the way you start things off with a meditation, and I've seen the chat blowing up. It's just been amazing. So you started off on what was like a really early morning for me, and it completely made my day. I mean, I get up early. I usually don't get up, like I said, at 5 unless I'm like going on a trip or I've got to catch a flight or something like that. This totally made my day. It got me started off on the right foot. Awesome. And Angela, good luck to you and your New York half marathon. I'm super jealous. You're gonna have a great time. It's a great race, and you guys just have a wonderful morning, man, and a wonderful day. I'm honored to be a part of this. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man.
Dean, thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Thank you, Rob, for the introduction as well. So much appreciated. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Sky.
Wow, thanks so much. I really appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Thanks, Guy. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Everybody.
Very inspiring.
Bye-bye.
Happy birthday, Sky.
Not my birthday. It's March 11th.
Oh, I thought
Happy
it was
early birthday.
yours.
Hey, I'll take it.
Take it
I'll
easy.
take
Happy early birthday. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.